Imagine a timeline where the human species does not yet exist. Across the vast span of cosmic history, there was a period when humanity was not even a thing mentioned. Then, out of that expanse, life begins from a single microscopic drop, a unified origin point that early theological texts describe as a Nutfah. This biological matter divides into complex tissue, and simultaneously it is wired with specialized sensors. Hearing and sight are granted, calibrated to pick up signals about the broader nature of reality. Our biology is an engineered vessel. We are built with a specific architecture to observe the universe, process its truths, and eventually make a choice. Early manuscripts outline a core mandate. Humanity is presented with clear guidance and granted autonomy to decide. One direction is ingratitude, fixating on the physical world. The alternative is gratitude, requiring internal alignment, recognizing your resources were provided by a creator. This refusal to look beyond the material world creates a form of self-imposed restriction. The texts illustrate this internal state through physical markers, heavy iron chains, shackles, and a gathering darkness that surrounds those who remain unthankful. Ultimately, the defining metric of a human life comes down to how we exercise our agency. We either default to a state of appreciation, or we sink into entitled ingratitude. Gratitude is difficult to prove in a vacuum. It requires a testing ground. This test happens in the gritty, physically demanding friction of earthly life. The parameters of this test focus specifically on the most vulnerable members of society. It measures how we interact with those who have zero leverage over us: the poor, the orphan, and the captive. A genuinely thankful soul proves itself through physical sacrifice. It takes the vital sustenance needed to survive and willingly hands it over to someone who possesses no power to return the favor. They make this sacrifice because they are aware of an impending timeline. They understand there is a heavy day of accountability approaching, and they are actively preparing to face it. Spiritual appreciation forces you to take difficult, tangible action to support the powerless, even in an unforgiving environment. When this kind of charity happens, the person giving makes a specific internal declaration. They are feeding the vulnerable solely for the countenance of God. This maps the psychology of sincere charity. Normally, a good deed carries an expectation of return. Here, the individual rejects worldly currency, blocking out material payback or social validation. Severing expectations creates insulation. Expecting zero praise, you cannot be manipulated or crushed by worldly disappointment. This detachment from worldly validation is the very definition of unshakable internal serenity. You achieve peace by giving your resources away and demanding nothing from the physical world. Eventually, that zero expectation effort triggers a cosmic response. The universe formally recognizes the soul's work with a divine declaration of deep appreciation. The environment undergoes a transformation. The harsh earthly reality gives way to a lush space, free from the bite of extreme temperatures. The physical elements here, the fine silk garments and silver vessels, act as a physical extension of the soul's intentions. The environment provides for the soul effortlessly, mirroring how the individual once served the vulnerable back on earth. In this realm, the landscape is shaped by the quality of the soul's previous actions. The service once rendered to others is now returned by the environment itself. This tranquility maintained during the earthly test becomes the very substance of the reward. Paradise is the physical manifestation of a soul that remained serene when it had nothing. When we look at the full arc of human existence, we trace it back to that initial void, where humanity was a thing not yet mentioned. From that emptiness, we received biology, sensory perception, and the gift of agency. We were handed a choice, and the successful soul chose the path of selfless gratitude. That journey resolves in an unbroken state. Having passed the test of sincerity, the soul earns protection from the heavy day of accountability. Eternal tranquility is the natural result for a mind that uses its autonomy to choose selfless gratitude.